In all honesty, if there was ever an anime that I would not have expected to get a tie-in game announced via Nintendo Direct, it would have been Crayon Shin Chan. And I say would have because that's exactly what happened. Now, if you're not familiar with Shin Chan, just imagine they took equal parts Rugrats and Dennis the Menace, put it in a blender, and then sprinkled a little bit of slice of life anime on top with a art style that matches the humor, and you get this guy. It's a classic comedy anime that I remember watching during the peak of the Adult Swim era, so naturally my interest was piqued when I saw the announcement trailer for Shin Chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless 7-Day Journey, which is now in the top 5 of the longest video game names I've ever said out loud. It came out during summer of last year, appropriate. But thanks to the people at Neos Corporation, I was provided with a copy of the game, so I get to see what it's all about. It was actually the first new game I played in 2023, so thank you guys for watching in advance. Initially from the reveal trailer, all I could glean was that this was some sort of adventure game. But it also turns out to be the latest in the long-running series of My Summer Vacation games from Millennium Kitchen, or Boku no Natsuyasumi for my Japanese peeps and the weebs out there, akin to how they have those DaArtiMari tie-ins for the Story of Seasons games. And given that I've been kinda AAA out lately, I decided to give this game a shot because I was in the mood for something simple and leisurely. But now that we're all on the same page here, let's get into my review of Shin Chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless 7-Day Journey.
Hey, yo, Giant, let's go!
Shinosuke's dad Hiroshi goes on a business trip and uses it as an excuse to bring the Nohara clan, dog included, along with him. They arrive in Kyushu where they plan to stay with a childhood friend of Shinosuke's mom for the week in a rural town called Aso while Hiroshi handles his business. When they arrive in town, they run into some old dude who starts bragging about coming up with fantastical inventions and gives Shin Chan a camera that turns every photo it takes into a drawing, which seems pretty neat. As they leave, the old man starts bragging about the usual anime villain grand scheme or something along those lines. And after being greeted with the sight of dinosaur bones being unearthed right in front of the station, they eventually end up at the home of Yoyoko, the childhood friend of Misai. She introduces them to her sister Lalako and their father, affectionately referred to as Cap. They all seem like fine enough people. Yoyoko runs a restaurant out of the house. Lalako is your standard slacker teenager who apparently has a knack for breaking everything she touches, while Cap watches over his daughters and runs a local newspaper as his day job. They give you free reign of the town the next day, and you spend your time becoming acquainted with the townsfolk, including a girl at the newspaper company called Yoshiko, who Shinosuke becomes dead set on earning a date with, and the local kids that bear a striking resemblance to some of Shin Chan's friends back home. The kids all go on to form the Aso Guard, a sort of neighborhood watch that mirrors one Shin Chan is a member of back in his hometown. In between all that, you do little things like catching bugs and fish and using your neat little camera to catch candids of anything that strikes your fancy, and everything seems pretty chill for the first couple of days until you run into a dinosaur? Everyone freaks out. The old man who gave you the camera shows up introducing himself as Professor Akuno, while he brags about the random dino being his doing, having successfully created a time machine. What can I say? Man's went straight from a Polaroid cam with a built-in Snapchat filter to time travel. Dude's got range. But as evil as he wants to come off, turns out he summoned a Brachiosaurus, which is an herbivorous species. I guess he never watched The Land Before Time, otherwise he would have known that Littlefoot likes leaves, not people. So much to his dismay, life continues for the townsfolk as if nothing happened, and they go on to make having an actual dinosaur in town a conversation piece amongst the dinner table. And a pterodactyl shows up later that I named P. Terry. By the way, I forgot to mention that Shin Chan also gets priority in naming the dinosaurs, so I went ahead and bestowed the honorable title of Mad Dash Lady the 23rd upon the first dino. Things go on like this throughout the week, right up until Shin Chan stumbles upon Professor Akuno's secret lab, which isn't really that secret considering you can find it right in the middle of town, complete with a view of the local cable car. After getting busted dancing in private like it's risky business, Professor Akuno tells Shin Chan that he's gonna make sure he never leaves town using his time machine. But Shin Chan being Shin Chan, he basically didn't register that threat at all and continues his week off until it's time to go back home. But on the 7th day, when he hops on the train back home, Professor Akuno activates the time machine and Shin Chan wakes up back in the train station on Monday, where he started his vacation. Shin Chan notes that it's weird that everything's happening all over again, but instantly ignores all of that because he has another chance to win a date with Yoshiko. Also, things aren't exactly playing out the same way, as the dinosaurs have been hanging around since the first night, unlike last time. And now we've got even more dinosaurs showing up, from a Stegosaurus to a T-Rex trotting around town. Miraculously, Shin Chan and the Aso Guard managed to calm down all these dinos and make them all friendly with the town, much to the professor's discharging. But as evil as he wishes to come off, the professor has this underlying sense of just wanting to be respected. I don't know, that's the way I'm taking it. We'll see how that plays out. At dinner, whenever he comes up, the group guesses that while he isn't all that good, he's not that bad either. And eventually he starts spending more time with Shin Chan and tells him that while he has a goal of world domination, the ulterior motive for it is that he'd be allowed to go to amusement parks as much as he wants, which is the most benign aspiration a mad scientist could have in my opinion, but he sticks to his guns and keeps trying to make everyone fear him. When you end up repeating the week again, the professor tells you that he learned something new about his time machine. It's not necessarily time travel, but rather it creates a parallel timeline that restarts everything while keeping everything that existed near the end of the previous. This explains how things keep playing out differently, but the question then becomes, how do we put everything back to the way it was? A question that our clumsy friend Lalako actively searches for an answer to, while Shin Chan goofs off in his third week and makes one more attempt at earning a date with Yoshiko. At different points in the story, Yoyoko's family makes reference to an old storybook their mother used to read to them about a princess named Hihiko that coexisted with dinosaurs at a certain point in history. They also make note of the fact that Princess Hihiko bears a striking resemblance to yet another character we've come to know, Lalako. So Lalako comes up with a plan to return the dinosaurs to their home that everyone concludes must be from inside the storybook, since they resemble the ones in said book. During all this, Shin Chan finally earns his date with Yoshiko. She originally promised a date to Shin Chan as practice for the date she wants to have herself. With who, you ask? Cap. Apparently the college-age part-timer has been crushing on the middle-aged owner of the local news building. And lastly, this whole time, Yoyoko herself has been crushing on Saburo, one of the local triplets named Ichiro, Jiro, and Saburo, respectively. The scene they wish to recreate from the storybook is one of a ritual performed by the princess and a suitor, along with two of her sisters and their suitors. So they decide on pairing Yoyoko with Saburo, Yoshiko with Cap, and Lalako with Shin Chan, who's upset about not being paired with Yoshiko. But whatever, they prepare the ritual after stealing the professor's time machine, and they successfully pull it off, sending all the dinos back where they came from, which happened to be back in the actual time of Princess Hihiko, causing the scenario that story is based on. Afterwards, the professor arrives and is shocked to see that not only are the dinos gone, Lalako broke the time machine in typical Lalako fashion. The professor follows up by telling us a story about how as a kid he bragged to his friends about going to an amusement park with his family, but he didn't get to because he got sick. This causes all of his friends to brand him a liar because they assumed he wasn't being truthful about having a chance to go to an amusement park in the first place. This event shapes the rest of his life in search of the validation he's been denied all these years, because he's basically lived a life without respect or even basic consideration. Sad as that is, everyone is glad to see a resolution to this whole situation. This ends the repeating week scenario and finally allows the Nohara clan to go home, but not before throwing a party for Yoyoko getting married to Saburo, and Yoshiko and Cap get together too. They cap it all off by gifting tickets to an amusement park to Professor Akano, which drives him to tears. And for the last time, everyone in town gathers for a photo at the train station before sending the family off, allowing Shinosuke to look forward to a new day. For real this time. Shin Chan's summer vacay story is a whimsical, funny, and wholesome tale. It's incredibly silly, but it matches the tone of the series really well, and wraps up everything in a neat little bow. I beat the game in around 10 hours, which probably would have been a lot quicker if I hadn't been enjoying myself elsewhere and taking glee in all the leisurely activities the game provided me with. Given the absurd nature of the game's events, it's surprisingly simple in terms of gameplay. Much of the game is spending Shinosuke's days exploring Aso. You can freely roam the town, and while there will be areas blocked off early on, they open up as the game progresses. This is structured in such a way that even up to the final week of the game, you're still seeing new things and taking in new sights. As you explore, you can whip out a bug net and catch all the critters you can. You can also fish and do the same. And the fishing doesn't have complicated controls at all. You get 2 rods for different casting lengths, and you just press a button when you see the water splash to catch something. Whenever Shin Chan collects a new item, he takes a picture of it with his camera and files it in his notebook. You can then check these items and choose how straight-laced or wacky he describes his findings. You then at several points bring these photos and writings to Cap, who publishes it in his paper. These get rated from 1 to 3 stars, and Cap will pay Shin Chan accordingly. Shin Chan also collects vegetables along the roads as well as one he grows at a farm, and he can provide these to the town shopkeepers for additional payouts. Whatever you take away, you can spend at the local market for snacks and veggies to deliver elsewhere. Food is important important because, weird as it may seem, there's a hunger mechanic in this game. That little red meter on the top right is Shin Chan's hunger meter. As the day progresses, the meter lowers. It's implied that it goes down over time, but this game uses the old school fixed camera angle approach, and it becomes apparent that time and hunger only passes whenever you switch angles. So if you stay in one area, nothing changes. But if you run out of energy, Shin Chan passes out and wakes up back at the house, losing most of his day in the process. Admittedly, as more of the town becomes available, this mechanic becomes more prevalent as you have to travel further and further throughout the village. And once you unlock good old Pete Terry, you can feed him curry snacks as a kind of ticket for fast travel to save you the trip to certain areas. It's not always necessary though. Maybe if the town were bigger, it's certainly helpful early on until you start getting so much money that you'll quite literally never go hungry. Once the sun starts setting, Shin Chan's dog Shiro, or one of the townsfolk, comes to bring Shin Chan home for dinner. He eats along with the family, takes a bath, and proceeds to explore the town at night. But in the same sense as Persona 5, you're much more limited in time and scope at night. So you just use this to tie up a couple of loose ends before you're forced to go to bed and start a new day. The last and arguably most exciting thing you can do is dinosaur battles. You take toy models of your Jurassic buddies and battle them Pokemon style. I say Pokemon, but all the moves are performed via rock, paper, scissors, and whoever wins the draw gets to do their attack. If you tie, you do a roulette wheel to see who actually gets to move. It's not complicated, but it's kinda cool. They do tournaments later on where you have to win multiple matches in a row to succeed, and that can become pretty annoying given how everything relies heavily on probability. You can also buy Shin Chan's favorite snack, Chocobi, at the market, and they come with booster packs for cards that buff your dinos in battle. It's a neat little distraction that I probably spent far more time playing than I needed to, but losing those tournaments was burning my soul and I was not walking away from them without the W. I don't care if it took 10 tries to win the last tourney, I got the W, kiss my ass. Ultimately, it all feels like fluff, like nothing really, but it's the best kind of fluff for this game, being able to do a whole lot of nothing and enjoying yourself the whole way because, well, I'm on vacation, man. I'm already goofing off while playing this game, where the whole gameplay hook is goofing off. It's oddly fitting. This is a simple yet pretty package. There's something to appreciate in Shin Chan's art style because it's pretty unique. And they somehow made it work in this game, having these 3D models placed against these pre-rendered backgrounds that give off the vibe of a child's storybook. There's some beautiful backdrops in this game too, seeing the various water sources and mountain views. You become familiar with a lot of the landmarks in this series, and you can hear music coming from places in the distance, letting you know where you are as you become familiar with the setting. The whole time, I felt like I was on a getaway alongside Shin Chan, taking pleasure in exploring the countryside and being away from the big cities and loud backdrops that fill other games. I went from Platinum in God of War 2018 to catching bugs by the river in this game, giving myself a personal reinforcement of the relaxing nature of this game. I think because of this game, I finally get why people get so absorbed in Animal Crossing. That only took like 2/3 of my life. What's also nice is that the original cast of the anime voices the main cast in the game, so if there are any Shin Chan fans eyeing this game, I'm sure you'll love that. And while there's definitely censorship in this game, it all still feels pretty Shin Chan. I'm sure Nintendo wouldn't have given this game airtime if Shinosuke was out here mooning or flashing his wang at the townspeople. But the writing is still pretty spot on if you've ever watched even a single episode of the show. It's written well enough that I enjoyed watching Shin Chan misinterpret everything the adults say to him while the adults are clearly exasperated with clarifying things to him, but let it slide anyway because he's 5 years old, man. In a chasm of either really good or really mid 2022 holiday releases, Shin Chan, Me and the Professor, and the longest video game title ever written, provided a much needed bit of decompression. I enjoyed my summer vacation and encourage anyone looking for a simple, casual experience to try it out. I suppose it all depends on how you value your $40, so maybe wait for a sale if that seems a little too steep, but I had a great time nonetheless. Once more, I want to give a thank you to the people at Neos Corporation, Millennium Kitchen, and Star Factory for providing me with this game. It was a pleasant time. But alas, my endless summer vacation has, in fact, ended. And who knows what I'll tackle next. But until then, I'll see you when I see you. Take care.